All right, this week, again, we're going to cover something called the potentiometer. This is a way to affect uh, LEDs just kind of natively by only allowing an amount of voltage to get to it, but you can also read that value into the pico, and that's what we're going to look at here, here first. So remember, the potentiometer has three leads: the ground lead, the positive lead, and the value, the voltage that comes out of it. So the voltage is the one in the middle, and the pins we're going to look at. By the way, don't worry about these LEDs and the wires over here. We're just going to look at the potentiometer here and this red lead right here. And how we're going to wire this up is that the third pin from the end, this is the ground pin. So that's this green wire right here. And the next one here, the blue wire, which is two wires down or two pins down from that one, is the 3V3. Again, we can see that if we look on here. Sorry about the glare. So we're over here. So the first wire we talked about was the ground here, the GND, and then two pins down from that is the 3V3 out. So 3 volts is going to come out of that pin all the time. And then we're going to use these one of these three green ADC pins. Again, don't worry about the one that's connected to the ground here. This says A ground. It's still just a ground, whether it's digital or analog. And so we're going to use one of these three green pins. We're actually going to use the ADC2, which is, again, two pins down from the 3V3 out. So we've got our 3 pins down, that's our ground. 2 pins down from that is our 3V3. And then 2 pins down from that is our GPIO 28, which is also ADC2. You can see that. All right, so what I have here, and I've done this on the breadboard here, I've got kind of some little bit more permanent wires. They're a little more permanent than these kind of jumper wires here. And I've got the green ones for ground coming out from the third pin to the bus, I guess, next to the blue wire, or next to the blue line. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you got ground plugged into the blue side, and then 2 pins down from that, the 3V3 is plugged into the red side. All right. And then we come down to the potentiometer. Right, so we've got the red, the 3 volt going to the far right pin, which might be getting flipped weird on the video. Green is going to go, or the ground is going to go to the left pin, and then the pin in the middle is going to go to the, let's see what pin number is that. It's pin 34. So it's 2 wires down from the blue. So once we do that, and again, don't worry about these the yellow and orange and blue wire over here for now. The code that we're going to use is pretty pretty short. So we're going to import board again so that we can get our access to the pin that we need. But this time, instead of the digital I/O that we've been using in the past for controlling the LEDs, we're going to use analog I/O. And then we're going to use the time so that we can do the sleep function. So we've got our, I called it pot pin. We've got, we use the analog I/O dot analog in, and we pass it the pin we want. Now, the pin, we don't want just the GP28 pin because we need it to be the analog one. So we have to use the one that has _A2 at the end. And then we've got our while true. So here we're going to read in the value. We're going to get the value for the potentiometer, and we're going to adjust it so that it's essentially squished down to the 0 to 3.3 volts so that we can kind of think about it in terms of voltage. And then we're going to print out the input value that we're getting from the potentiometer, and the voltage value so we can kind of see how that looks. And start monitoring here. Uh, oh, sorry, wrong port. COM port. Okay, now we've got values coming in. And so now if I turn this all the way to the left, you can see here our voltage is going down to 0-ish. And then if we turn it all the way to the right, we're going to go up to 3.3. So we are able to read in this potentiometer value. It's a little finicky. Sometimes you'll get a random, not quite 3.3 value. But that's how we read that in. It's really just making sure we have an analog I/O pin and grabbing the value from it. That's it. So now then if we wanted to control some LEDs, you kind of have a couple of options here. So if you think about it, we have an LED, or I'm sorry, we have a resistor, right? Our resistor, our potentiometer, if we go down all the way to 0, we are still getting, we're only getting 320, or like 0.016 volts. So essentially, we have a resistor. That potentiometer is a resistor. So another thing that we could do is if we take our LED, right, and remember an LED has a long pin or a long wire and a short wire. The long wire is the side the voltage needs to come into, and the small wire or the shorter wire is the one that has to go to ground. So if we put this LED in here, and we grab a couple more of these shorter, shorter ones, and we come from our output of the potentiometer, that middle pin. Okay, if we come out of that middle pin and we go to the plus side of the input side of the resistor, the input side of the LED, and then we go from the output side of the LED and we go to our ground bus. Now when we change our potentiometer, you'll see this LED starts to turn on. So I turn it down, it gets dimmer, and then we turn it up and it gets brighter. Okay, now the important thing here is we're manipulating the actual voltage coming to this, this LED, okay? By going through the potentiometer, we are changing how much electricity the voltage is getting to that LED, and so it gets brighter and it gets dimmer. Okay, that is one way to control an LED.